Now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and it's time to begin another week of movies that star WWE Hall of Famers. And today we're going to be discussing Penance Lane, starring Tyler Mane, Scout Taylor-Compton, John Schneider, Daniel Roebucj, April Bogenschultz, two-time WWE Hall of Famer Booker T, and 2017 WWE Hall of Famer Diamond Dallas Page. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. As I said in the introduction, we're here to kick off another week of movies starring WWE Hall of Famers, and this movie features two Hall of Famers. 2013 and 2019 Hall of Famer Booker T, and 2017 Hall of Famer Diamond Dallas Page. And as our movie opens, Shooter and his crew break into an abandoned home on Penance Lane, looking to find a $3 million stash of cash. Something attacks Shooter's brother, Bobby, killing him and the rest of the crew, while Shooter flees in terror. 5 years later, Crimson Matthews arrives in a small town. Matthews is an ex-con, fresh out of prison, and he's looking for a new beginning. Matthews immediately interjects himself into a confrontation between Tony Wilson and Sherry Roddick after witnessing Tony slap Sherry. Crimson makes his way around town searching for an employment. First, he checks out a restaurant where Sherry just happens to work alongside her mother, Jan Roddick, before being referred to Father John in regards to remodeling the same abandoned house from the beginning of the film. Upon leaving the restaurant, Crimson encounters Sheriff Denny Wilson, Tony's father. Crimson is able to secure the remodeling job, and he heads into town in order to pick up some supplies. He stops back at the restaurant where Jan proceeds to flirt with him and even asks him out on a dinner date. That evening, someone attempts to attack Crimson, but he's able to lock it up for the night. The next morning, Jan and Sherry show up at the house in order to bring him some food, and they even offer to have him stay at their home, an offer which Crimson declines. Crimson then goes back into town looking for a gun because of the attack, and the shop owner points out the fact that it would violate his parole. So Crimson goes and he contacts Hyson, an old friend of his, who brings him a pair of guns. Back at the restaurant, Sheriff Wilson approaches Sherry, basically attempting to make her believe that she deserved the slap. And then he tries to warn her about Crimson's past. That evening, Crimson discovers a group of teenagers throwing in a party in the house that were sent by Tony. He attempts to chase them off, but the killers attack. As Crimson attempts to leave the home, Sheriff Wilson shows up and apprehends him due to his brandishing a firearm. We then learn that Crimson's cellmate was none other than Shooter, and Shooter is the one that told Crimson to go to this town, hoping that he would take care of Bobby's killer and find the money for him. The next morning, Sherry once again returns to the home, attempting to bring some more food to Crimson, but she discovers the home is empty and is captured as a result. When Sherry comes to, she is shackled next to Crimson. Upon being separated once again, we discover that Father John and Sheriff Wilson are two of the men behind all the weird things going on, and that Bobby, Shooter's brother, has been turned into one of the killers. Father John explains to Crimson that the money has already been found by them. And that's how they were able to take control of the town. Crimson and Sherry are able to escape, and they separate as Crimson wants to get as far away from town as possible. When Sherry gets back to her mom, she discovers that she is in on the take as well, as it's the only way she can keep her restaurant open and thriving. Crimson comes back in order to rescue Sherry, but he is attacked by Father John and his crew. Tony shows up outside with a mob in order to try and help his dad, while Sheriff Wilson turns on Father John, killing him in the process. Sheriff Wilson then grabs Sherry and attempts to take her with him, but Crimson arrives on the scene and kills him. The next day, Sherry and Crimson part ways for good. The money has been recovered, and Crimson gives it to Sherry so that she can start a new life. Crimson then climbs onto a motorcycle that was left for him by Hyson with a note saying, "When you call, I ride." Crimson leaves town looking to begin his new life as our movie comes to its end. This was a cool little suspense horror thriller film with the whole, who done it as far as who's in charge of everything. You've got the creepy killers and the jump scares. It's not your Michael, your Chucky, your Freddy, your Jason type of horror film. It's definitely a little bit more cerebral, a little bit more suspenseful. But I felt like it was a really good, decent story. And I'm curious why I never really heard of this film until I started to do the digging to find movies that starred wrestlers, and more specifically, WWE Hall of Famers, as it's got people in it that I'm very familiar with. You figure Tyler Mane is probably best known for being Rob Zombie's Michael Myers, or some people may remember him as Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie. Scout Taylor-Compton is a modern day Scream Queen. Of course, she was in the Rob Zombie Halloweens as well as doing a number of other things. John Schneider from the Dukes of Hazzard. Daniel Roebucj was also in Rob Zombie's Halloweens. He was also in Rob Zombie's Munsters. He was Grandpa Munster. So he's done a lot of work with Rob Zombie, which is probably how him, Tyler, and Scout all came together for this, is because even though Rob wasn't involved in this, they've all got that relationship from working on all the zombie movies together. So they knew they'd have the chemistry. Then you bring in Booker T. He played Shooter, and DDP was Hyson. And while Shooter wasn't a main character, he was a pivotal character because we see him in the beginning, trying to find the money in the house and getting attacked. And then we determine and we find out that he was Crimson's cellmate. So the entire story that's unfolding is because of Shooter, because he sent Crimson to this town. None of the stuff would be happening to Crimson if it wasn't for Shooter. So while not a major role, definitely a very pivotal role. I think Booker T did a great job. I think DDP did a great job. I wish Hyson had had a little bit more of a role. Maybe he had actually showed up physically at the end. But, that's just petty nitpicking for me. All in all, I thought this was a hell of a film. Very good. I'm trying to find it on hard copy now, DVD, Blu-ray, some kind of physical media. Add to my collection of movies that star professional wrestlers, as I really enjoyed this. In fact, when it comes to my rating for this, I give Penance Lane 4 out of 5 stars. If you're into these type of suspense, thriller, horror type of movies, and not all the Michael, Freddy, Jasons, I think you ought to give this a watch. I think you guys will be thoroughly surprised by it, and I think you guys will enjoy it immensely. What do you guys think of Penance Lane? Those of you that have seen it. Let me know if you're watching the premiere. Leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. Let's have that conversation, that discussion, that debate, that interaction that I'm always asking you guys for in the comments below. And make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, right here to the Casa D18 Studios channel, as we open the doors once again for Stat Boy Sports Bar, featuring Dory Lou. The food is hot, the beer is ice cold, and the seats are warm, so pull up a bar stool and engage in some professional sports conversation with your barkeeps, Stat Boy Mike and Dory Lou. And then, later on in the evening, on the Casa D18 Studios channel, the Jeff Meacham Network, and across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media, it'll be time once again to talk wrestling or anything with the man, the myth, the legend, the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham. 7:05 Pacific, 10:05 Eastern, immediately following WWE NXT. And then you will see us again on Wednesday, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel. It'll be another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, and we'll be discussing the film Bounty Hunters, starring the 2013 WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus, Boomer Phillips, Frank J. Zupacek, Christian Balco, Enrico Daifidi, Joseph Rafla, Andrea James Louis, and Richard Ha. You don't want to miss out on any of that content right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, on the Jeff Meacham Network, across the Jeff Meacham Network, multiverse of media, Stat Boy Sports Bar, featuring Dory Lou, Talk Wrestling, or anything with Jeff Meacham, and Bounty Hunters, starring Trish Stratus. Like I said, you don't want to miss out on any of that content, so make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that notification bells are turned on so you don't miss out anytime a video drops right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, or anytime we go live, as is the case with Stat Boy Sports Bar, Talk Wrestling, Open Mic Night, pay-per-view PLE coverage, etc. Share these videos with your family, friends, loved ones, coworkers, movie fanatics, cinephiles in your life, fans of suspense movies, fans of thriller movies, fans of horror movies, fans of Tyler Mane, fans of Scout Taylor-Compton, fans of Daniel Roebucj, fans of John Schneider, fans of Booker T or DDP. Anybody you can think of that would enjoy this content and this video, share it with them. It's the only way we're going to boost up my visibility in YouTube's algorithms so I can eventually get monetized and begin making some money on the hard work I've been putting into this channel for the last 2+ years. Thank you once again to everyone who joined me and tuned in today. It means so much more to me than you'll ever know. And I will see you guys next time.